almost don't want to go back to the traditional Castlevania formula. I'll play a normal platforming Castlevania game and I'll think to myself, this is good, but I wish I could level up. I wish I could find new weapons and armor. I wish there were RPG elements. RPG elements can't hurt, they can only make a game better. In Castlevania Symphony of the Night, you run around this what amounts to a 2D maze, but don't worry, you do have a map when you press select, so everything you've already discovered in the map, it will show up on the map that you have. So you might still get lost. I mean, it is a maze, but at least you'll know where you've already been, and the map really does help. I mean, it's a huge maze. Without the map, this game would be almost impossible. You would have to have like a picture-perfect memory to really pass the game. Now, forgetting the RPG elements in terms of the actual action in the game, it's very similar to great Castlevania games. You fight all these cool, gothic, vampiric demons and monsters. The regular add-ons are pretty easy. I mean, sometimes the ones that fly around can hurt you, but the ones that are just walking, even if they're walking fast, it's very easy to avoid their attacks and kill them. The only time you'll get hurt in this game is when a regular add-on is flying or doing something other than just slowly walking back and forth like a stoned Frankenstein. Dude, don't light it. I hate fire and stuff. Now, where the combat in this game gets really interesting is tough enemies and boss enemies. These hit you really hard. A lot of times they fly around, or they have a pattern you have to master in order to pass them. Back in the day when this game came out, a lot of games didn't have good movements. And most of the time, we still let developers get away with that sort of thing. Some games were considered fairly decent, but the character moved all jerky and it was just cumbersome to move around, and it is not so with this game at all. The movement is smooth and perfect, and it really is your own fault if you get hit in this game. One trick I like to always remember is to avoid enemy projectiles, you can always just hit most of the enemy projectiles. I feel like the Castlevania franchise isn't as big as it should be. I mean, vampires are awesome. They're like the best monsters in fantasy because they can hide the fact that they're monsters. It makes them extra scary, if you will. There have been so many game franchises that aren't as good as Castlevania that have come out with Hollywood movies like Silent Hill, Street Fighter, House of the Dead. Alone in the Dark came out with a movie. Dead or Alive had a movie adaptation. Dead or Alive. Even like really obscure games had movies. Like back in the late 90s, Wing Commander had a movie made about it. Resident Evil has had about 50,000 movies made about it. Mila Jovovich, seriously, look at her IMDb page. There's about 700 movies that she stars in, and they all start with Resident Evil. It's completely insane that Castlevania has yet to have a movie come out about it, especially because it would be so easy to make a good Castlevania movie. You're working with vampires. What better horror assets do you need than vampires? When a vampire movie is good, it's just a classic, like Blade, John Carpenter's Vampires, Fright Night. Even the Fright Night remake is great, even despite people not liking it. There's no reason that a Castlevania Hollywood movie hasn't been made yet. Let's get to it. Let's do it. Come on. Get like Zac Efron in a white wig, and you got yourself a Castlevania movie. It's hard to really think of a platforming game better than Symphony of the Night. I mean, when it comes to platforming games, this is probably the best of the best. It does not get any better. Even games coming out 15, 16 years after this one are still lacking a lot of things this game has in abundance. It gets an official Stan Birdman rating of an almost perfect 9.8 out of 10. Thanks for watching. Subscribe for more classic game reviews. Goodbye, my friends.